Hey guys, my name is Matt Johnson. I'm a wedding cinematographer, and I'd like to welcome you to my fourth and final video about my run and gun settings for the Sony A7S II. Now, if you're like me and you shoot a lot of weddings or other things where you don't have a lot of time to dig into the settings and be like, okay, that looks great, action, but instead you're just like, settings, run, shoot, go, okay, that looks great, done, then this video should be very helpful to you, as well as the rest of the videos in this series. Previously, and I'm going to put it right here, I talked about the menu system of the Sony A7S II, so I went into super detail with every single thing that's in it, and that's very helpful because a lot of it just needs to be dialed in properly. So I definitely recommend watching that. Secondly, and I'll put the video also right here, I talked about the mode dial and how you're able to quickly use it to change between your frame rate and resolution without needing to dig into the menus. So you can go from 4K at 24 frames per second to 1080p at 120 frames per second like that, with hardly any time wasted at all, which is amazing. And in my third video, which I will also put right here, I talked about my custom buttons, specifically C1 through C4, but also all of the other buttons you're able to customize on the back of the camera to really dial in all of your settings that you need to access quickly. That way, if something happens on the wedding day or another shoot day that you're filming, you're ready to go as quickly as possible, and you're able to focus on making creative decisions about what looks good versus camera decisions about how do I make this camera work right, which is very, very useful whenever you are trying to tell a story. I really could have stopped this video series after talking about the custom buttons because there are so many features that you are able to access just by using them. But I really wanted to cover something that's just as powerful, and that's the function button. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. You with me? Let's do this. My mode dial is set to 1, which is 4K at 24 frames per second, 1/50th shutter speed. I'm using my Sigma art lens with a Nikon mount that is adapted to my Sony camera, so it's a dead lens. It's not receiving any electronic contact between the two of them. That's something you need to know because a lot of my settings are based around using this lens. If you're using another lens like the 16 to 35 or something like that, this does have an electronic connection to the camera, and we're going to be covering that too. But first, let's start off with this lens. So your camera is ready, waiting to record something. And on the back of the screen, you're going to notice that there's a button that says FN or function. Press that, and that's going to bring up the function menu, which is amazing. In the function menu, you have 12 quick access settings that you can completely customize in order and option, so that way you can quickly access your settings without needing to dig into the menu. Now that I just said that though, we do need to go into the menu to change these settings. So let's press the menu button. We'll go to the gear at the top, and we're going to go over to subheading 6, much like we did with the custom buttons video, and we're going to go down to function menu set. Select that, and you'll notice there's two headings for the function menu set. There is function upper and function lower. Function upper is the 6 icons at the top, function lower is the 6 icons at the bottom, and number 1 through 6 is the order that they're going to be in. In my case, we're just going to go through how I have it set up. The first function upper I have set to is steady shot focal length. And you're probably wondering why I did that, because if you watched my previous custom button settings video, you saw that I had the center button already set to the steady shot focal length. So why would I have it twice? Well, honestly, sometimes I can be in the heat of the moment and I'll forget, and I remember always that I can go to the function menu and it's there. So I want to be able to access that quickly because one of the most common things I'm doing whenever I'm shooting a wedding is changing lenses. Next, let's go back to the function menu button, gear icon, subheading 6, function menu settings. We're going to go to function upper 2, which I currently have to gamma display assist, which you're like, Matt, that's also redundant. You already had that done. But hey, like I said, I believe in redundancy, and it's really nice to have that accessible there too. So in my case, I have function upper 3 set to peaking level, so that way I can adjust how much peaking there is, because that's important. Function number 4 I have set to zebra, and you're like, well, aren't you always shooting the same picture profile and always with your zebras at 100%? Yes, that's true, but sometimes the zebras can be a little distracting because I'll be trying to compose and I'm like, okay, yes, I know that part's overexposed, thank you. So instead of needing to go to the menu and turn off the zebras just to double check my composition to see how it looks, I have that set to the function menu. Next, back into the menu, back to the function menu settings, function upper 5 I have set to steady shot, which is the in-body stabilization and is closely related to the steady shot focal length that I have set up earlier. By having steady shot set to function upper 5, I can turn it off and on very quickly. So if I say I'm shooting on a tripod and I'm like, I don't need steady shot on, we can maybe save a little bit of battery and stuff, we can turn that off right there. Next, we have function upper 6, which I have set to audio recording level. And this is helpful if you are, say, shooting in a very loud place and it's peaking or something like that, the auto leveling cannot handle it. You can go into the function menu and quickly change the audio recording level to a little bit lower, so that way you're not peaking your scratch track. And that's it for function menu setting subheading 1. Function menu setting subheading 2, which is the lower menu. This stuff is first off related to autofocus. So my first two options, function lower 1 and function lower 2, are set to my autofocus settings. So with that, let me switch over to my Sony 16 to 35 millimeter. That's better. And with function lower 1, I have focus mode selected, and function lower 2, I have focus area selected. So let's go out to the function menu and look at both of those. If you go to focus mode in the function menu, you'll see it says autofocus continuous, and you can scroll over to manual focus. So with this lens, because it does not have, like Canon lenses have like an autofocus manual focus switch, you need to do it in the camera. Instead of needing to dig into the menu like, dang it, I don't want autofocus right now, you can have it set to the function menu and very quickly go between autofocus continuous and manual focus. So in my case, I'm going to leave it on autofocus continuous because I like autofocus right now. And I'm going to go over to focus area, which I covered in the menu video about run and gun settings. If you select focus area here, you'll notice you can select wide, zone, center, flexible spot, stuff like that. It's very helpful to have the autofocus settings on the function menu, very easily accessed whenever I'm using a Sony lens with autofocus enabled. All right, almost done. Let's go back to function menu setting. Function lower 3, I have set to smile/face detect. And you remember in my menu video, it was like, man, that's way back in the settings. How do I get to that? Now it's right here in the function menu. So you can have smile face detect set to on or off. And that way, whenever you are using autofocus and you know that there are people's faces in the shot, say like the bride's getting ready, you want it to be focused on her face. The camera will detect her face and stay focused on that, not on other things. Back to function menu, subheading 2, function lower 4, I have set to grid line, which you may remember from the menu video because you can set your grid lines to say rule of thirds or even aspect ratios, such like that. If you want to crop to 235 to 1 or something like that with your final video, it will put up grid lines on your screen showing you how to do that. Back to function menu settings, let's talk about function lower 5. And I have that set to peaking color. Let's say I'm shooting outside and it's really bright out and I can't really see the screen well, and so I turn on peaking to check my focus, but like the white's bright and everything else is bright, so it's not helping. So being able to change the peaking color to red or yellow is great. Now I wish they had blue also, because that would just be more patriotic of Sony to have red, white, and blue, but instead we get yellow, so can't complain much about that. Lastly, let's go back into the function menu, and function lower 6, you'll notice I have set to not set. Now why is that? Because at this point, between the function menu and the custom buttons, I really have no other settings that I need to access quickly. At this point, I cannot think of any that I need. Now these are the settings that I've been shooting with for quite a while, and I'm sure you're gonna watch them and be like, Matt, you're an idiot. You could use this setting, it's so much better. And I'll be like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm dumb. Okay, I got kids to feed here, I'm working hard, making videos for you guys, you should be happy about it. I'm just kidding, I don't have kids. We don't have children. No, not yet. No, I got cameras. These are my baby. Okay, so with that, that's the function menu, and that's what you need to know. I hope that between the mode dial, the custom buttons, and the function menu, and everything else that I covered in these 4 videos, that you have enough to be able to shoot with this camera well without needing to dig through the menus, and that you have a better understanding of how to shoot great videos with it. So please, use these settings and go forth and film great videos. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one below, or you can send me an email through my website, WhoisMatt.com. You can also check out my wedding film production company, Filmstrong Productions, at filmstrong.com. And please send me any questions or comments about anything else you'd like me to cover too. I have a very long list of video ideas, but it's always good to add more. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.